Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Bold and beautiful today. The boat capsized, Nick died, Brooke called for help in the middle of the sea. Brooke's dramatic boat accident and Ridge's explosive outburst. Nick's plans for romance. Nick is organizing a sweet and enchanting surprise for Brooke this week. Nick intends to propose to Brooke aboard his favorite boat, even though they haven't even gone on a date and haven't seen one another in a very long time. Nick believes that Brooke ought to choose his loyal one-woman love over the absurd cycle she has been on with Ridge for decades. Given that, as Donna Logan stated, every man, including my husband, is in love with Brooke, I assume Nick is seizing the opportunity to pop the question. Although Donna is quite dim-witted, that exchange left me speechless. Are you really comfortable with it, Donna? If it's true, you have to ask yourself if Eric Forrester wants his son back with Brooke because he's trying to live vicariously through Ridge. That type of disgusting and unsettling conversation bothered me. For you, that's Brad Bell. Nick's plans take a detour. In any case, Nick is preparing his proposal to Brooke and has a large, exquisite rock and a stunning diamond in the box. Nick is imagining what might happen, but it appears that at least a few things go wrong because he asked the mechanic why he was fiddling with his boat's steering wheel when he arrived at the marina. Ridge and Nick are both concerned for Brooke's life because that is a warning sign of impending disaster. The beautiful and brave, Ridge and Nick's upcoming battle. We also know that this week, Ridge and Nick fight. We can always hope, even though it seems more like a verbal battle than them fighting. Ridge and Brooke are having a heated conversation following the Capri fashion show. She is essentially saying, "Dump Taylor Hayes," as she keeps hurling Nick in Ridge's face. "I'll go get Nick if you don't pick me." It's definitely a strategy, you know. It's ultimatum stuff, scorched earth, and salted earth. Additionally, keep in mind that Ridge is angry because Eric won't leave him alone. He keeps reminding him to break up with Taylor and start dating Brooke right away. We've been having these ominous warnings from Eric. Brad Bell is not being subtle with this writing. Not even a little bit. Nick's romantic proposal and Brooke's torn loyalties in Bold and the Beautiful. Brooke is on her choose me thing, and Nick strolls up. Ridge tells his brother to go away and says this doesn't involve him. But instead of leaving, Nick asks Brooke to come with him, and she glances over Ridge. Brooke's looking torn, but frankly, she's had it. In the spoilers this week, Ridge asks Brooke not to go with Nick, even though Ridge is still rejecting her. Brooke's upset. A spoiler from a very reliable leaker who's been 100% spot on said that she's going to tell Ridge, "Screw you." That's a drastic change in attitude. I don't know if Brooke's ever said that to him before. I'm excited to see it on Bold and the Beautiful. Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke goes off with Nick. But yeah, Ridge doesn't want Brooke, but he also doesn't want her going off with Nick, who says he loves her. Bottom line, it's none of Ridge's business. Brooke's had enough. She tells him to step off, takes off with Nick, and there's a romantic lunch. They're going to be out boating, and Nick's got this huge plan to propose to Brooke. All sounds great, right? Until it's not, because Bold and the Beautiful isn't subtle. They are showing us that Nick's boat has some problem. Looks like something wrong with the steering, but maybe that was just the easiest thing for the mechanic to tinker with. We'll see. Upcoming boat accident and life-threatening danger for Brooke on Bold and the Beautiful. Based on a whole bunch of big clues, and we know from spoilers already that there's an accident that changes Ridge's mind. Looks like it's all about the boat. Eric has been hinting for like a week and a half now that Brooke could drop dead and Ridge would miss out on his chance to be with her forever. There's that leaked behind-the-scenes photo of Ridge diving into the water. To me, that adds up to Brooke falling off the boat, being at risk of drowning. For whatever reason, Nick can't get to her. Maybe because his boat is malfunctioning. I personally think it'd be wild if Brooke fell off Nick's boat right after he popped the question. That would be the best timing, the big diamond weighs her down. If Ridge is watching them like a stalker and sees Brooke tip off the boat, naturally Ridge would dive in to get her. Brooke overboard. We'll see how it goes, but I definitely expect Brooke to be in the water. Life or death stuff. Hero Ridge pulls her out. We get a flashback montage of their love story, the destiny, that keyhole scene yet again. Then bam, Ridge knows his father is right and Brooke is his destiny. Also, right after this, Nick is going to take off an unhappy man. His stint on Bold and the Beautiful is done. Jack Wagner couldn't stay long, just long enough to be a badly written plot device so Brad Bell could throw Taylor under the bus and put his favorite couple, Brooke and Ridge, back together. Actor insights and behind-the-scenes clues about the Bold and the Beautiful boat incident. Another reason to assume that Brooke is the victim of some bad boating is a recent interview. In that interview, Ridge Forrester actor Torsten Kay said, "Maybe someone doesn't know as much as he thinks he does about boats." Since we know Ridge doesn't know much about boats, obviously, he is talking about Nick, the sea captain, overestimating his boating abilities on a much smaller boat than he's used to captaining. That's why Brooke may end up overboard. It would be ironic for a guy like Nick, an experienced seaman, to lose his woman to the waves. Ridge is going to save her, have the big epiphany that Brad Bell leaked to an Italian magazine. We talked about it a while ago. I had the interview translated, and yeah, he said accident. Brad basically gave it all away. Bold and the Beautiful, Taylor heartbroken. Then Ridge is going to have to dump Taylor. Brooke's going to be smug about stealing him back from Taylor. The one bright lining is Steffi Forrester left LA, so she won't be there to rip her dad Ridge a new one for going back on his word and crushing Taylor's heart again. I wouldn't be surprised if Ridge rages at Nick, stating he almost got Brooke killed. Of fact, I suppose she'd actually thank Nick, since if it is indeed his boating incident that caused her to be in danger, then that means the tragedy got Ridge back. Brad Bell promised in the interview that Ridge and Brooke are endgame. They'll be together forever after this. It's all about to happen. The Italy scenes wrap up on Wednesday, August 6th. Expect Ridge to fall head over heels in love again once Brooke goes head over heels into the sea. Speculations about Eric's role and future drama in Bold and the Beautiful. I would personally love to see Taylor slap Donna's honey bear, Eric, hard in the face for sabotaging her and pushing Ridge at Brooke so aggressively. Although ultimately, it's not Eric's responsibility that this happened. I also wonder how much scheming we're going to see Eric doing with Brooke and Ridge while they're in Italy now that he knows Taylor's not there keeping an eye on Ridge. Ridge's valiant water rescue and Sheila's investigative efforts. While Sheila Sharp thinks about doing some detective work, Ridge Forrester will perform a valiant water rescue of Brooke Logan. Brooke will fully commit to Nick Marone and his planned Italian adventure once she decides she is done playing all these games with Ridge. The yacht Nick intends to take Brooke on has been undergoing hasty repairs, which will undoubtedly turn out to be a blunder. Ridge will witness that stunner since there will undoubtedly be some dramatic boat failure that causes Brooke to fall into the water. They will rekindle their romance as Ridge jumps in for a spectacular rescue. Despite her prior outburst, Brooke needs to soften and acknowledge that her heart is urging her to return to Ridge. Ridge will also come to the conclusion that Brooke is his genuine love and that he cannot continue to deny it. Taylor Hayes will never become the soulmate that B&B portrays her as for Ridge and Brooke, despite Ridge's affection for her. In other words, Taylor will face some destruction since fate will triumph once more. Ridge is about to realize that Brooke is really his destiny, hence Taylor and Ridge's engagement won't last. Since Nick won't get the fresh start he was looking for with Brooke, he will suffer a devastating blow of his own. As Nick is ready to depart B&B, he should be devastated to see Brooke and Ridge get back together. Sheila might choose to act independently once she returns to Los Angeles. Will Sheila follow Lee Finnegan and attempt to find out more after growing skeptical of her and what she's concealing about Luna Nozawa? Could there be a threat to the secret of Luna's survival? In the upcoming episodes, Sheila might play detective in some capacity, and John Finnegan ought to continue playing detective on a completely unrelated case. It won't take long for Finn to discover that Grace Buckingham deceived Liam and Bill Spencer, now that he has additional information about her fraud. Last but not least, Carter Walton will undoubtedly find himself in the center of a dispute between Hope Logan and Daphne Rose on her return to Los Angeles. Nick Marone, a man propelled by a potent cocktail of unwavering devotion and, perhaps, profound naivete. His grand romantic gesture, a a meticulously planned proposal aboard his cherished boat to Brooke Logan, wasn't just ambitious, it bordered on the fantastical. Consider the context: no dates, a significant absence stretching between them, and Brooke deeply entrenched in her decades-long, emotionally destructive tango with Ridge Forrester. Yet, Nick, armed with a dazzling diamond ring and fueled by Donna Logan's unsettlingly blasé observation that every man's in love with Brooke, even my husband, convinced himself he was Brooke's escape route. He envisioned whisking her away from Ridge's indecisive torment, offering the sanctuary of his singular, unwavering love. This premise, however, felt less like a genuine romantic overture and more like a narrative contrivance, a hastily assembled plot device designed solely to ignite the inevitable bridge reunion, underscored by the show's increasingly heavy-handed foreshadowing and Eric Forrester's relentless, ominous warnings to Ridge about losing Brooke forever. Simultaneously, Ridge Forrester was a pressure cooker nearing explosion. Eric's constant haranguing, demanding he abandon Taylor Hayes and reclaim Brooke before it was too late, frayed his nerves to the breaking point. The dialogue, particularly Eric's vicarious fixation and Donna's unsettling acceptance of Eric's supposed Brooke infatuation, landed with a disturbing thud, highlighting the sometimes awkward machinations of Brad Bell's pen. This pressure collided violently with Brooke's own desperate strategy, a scorched-earth ultimatum delivered on the Capri Cliffs. Throwing Nick in Ridge's face, she demanded he choose her immediately or lose her to his brother. It was a high-stakes gamble born of decades of frustration, a screw-you moment, as reliably spoiled, signifying a drastic, final shift in her tolerance for Ridge's wavering. When Nick materialized amidst this tense standoff, Ridge's command for him to leave was met not with retreat, but with an invitation to Brooke. Seeing Brooke, pushed to her absolute limit, glance at Ridge one final time before defiantly walking away with Nick, was a seismic moment. Ridge's subsequent fury, wanting neither Brooke nor anyone else to have her, exposed the raw, possessive core of his conflicted feelings, a hypocrisy Brooke was finally done entertaining. Nick's romantic interlude, however, was doomed from the dock. Ominous cracks appeared immediately, visually telegraphed by the show's lack of subtlety. A mechanic tinkering with the boat's steering wheel wasn't just background noise, it was a glaring red flag of impending disaster. Despite this, Nick sailed forward with his plan, likely pouring his heart out over a romantic lunch before steering towards his planned proposal spot. The irony was thick: Nick, the experienced sea captain, aboard a vessel suddenly compromised. Actor Torsten K's interview hint, "Maybe someone doesn't know as much as he thinks he does about boats," pointed directly at Nick potentially overestimating his control on a smaller pleasure craft compared to the massive ships he captained. Whether due to the foreshadowed steering malfunction, an unexpected wave, or Brooke's reaction to the sudden proposal, the delicious irony of a diamond ring potentially dragging her down, the result was catastrophic: Brooke overboard. The subsequent scenes promised high-stakes drama. Leaked behind-the-scenes photos confirmed Ridge diving heroically into the water. Logic dictates he was either stalking the couple, a distinctly Ridge-like move born of jealousy and Eric's warnings, or nearby by chance, witnessing the crisis. Nick, likely incapacitated by the malfunctioning boat or simply unable to reach her quickly enough, would be rendered helpless. Ridge's plunge wasn't just physical, it was symbolic, diving back into the turbulent waters of his destiny with Brooke. Saving her life would trigger the long-telegraphed epiphany Brad Bell revealed in an Italian magazine interview. Facing Brooke's potential mortality, decades of shared history, the epic highs, devastating lows, and yes, undoubtedly that keyhole scene in a flashback montage, would crystallize for Ridge. Eric's dire predictions, Brooke could drop dead and Ridge would miss his chance, would resonate with terrifying clarity. In that near-death moment, Ridge would finally accept what Eric had hammered home: Brooke was his destiny. The fallout would be swift and brutal. Nick, his grand romantic gesture culminating in near tragedy and the woman he loved running back to his brother, would depart Los Angeles a heartbroken man. Jack Wagner's limited stint concluded, his character serving his purpose as the catalyst for Bridge's reunion, albeit through a perilous plot device. Ridge, now convinced of his eternal bond with Brooke, as Bell promised endgame and forever, would face the agonizing task of breaking Taylor Hayes' heart, again. Brooke's likely triumphant smugness at winning Ridge back would be a bitter pill, made slightly easier only by Steffi's timely absence, sparing Ridge her righteous fury. Ridge's own rage would undoubtedly turn towards Nick, accusing him of recklessness that almost cost Brooke her life, though Brooke might privately view the accident as the necessary shock therapy to reclaim her Ridge. Meanwhile, Taylor Hayes, twice cast aside for Brooke, deserved a cathartic slap aimed squarely at Eric Forrester, the puppet master whose constant interference and vicarious living through his son significantly fueled this crisis. While ultimately Ridge made his choices, Eric's manipulations created the pressure cooker that exploded, leaving Taylor as collateral damage. With the Italy chapter closing, the stage is set for Bridges renewed forever, but the echoes of Nick's shattered dream, Taylor's profound betrayal, and the terrifying specter of Brooke's near drowning ensure the calm waters ahead on the Bold and the Beautiful are merely the deceptive lull before the next inevitable storm. The only certainty is Eric, watching his machinations bear fruit, likely already scheming the next act in his grand romantic design for his son. Brooke Logan, driven to a breaking point by the exhausting emotional ping-pong with Ridge Forrester, had decisively chosen a path forward, one that sailed away from uncertainty aboard Nick Marone's hastily repaired yacht, bound for the sun-drenched promise of an Italian escape. Nick, fueled by the fervent hope of a new beginning with the woman he deeply loved, had cut corners on the vessel's refurbishment, a reckless gamble against the unforgiving sea that would soon exact a terrifying cost. As the boat ventured further from the safety of the shore, the inevitable mechanical failure struck with brutal suddenness, a rogue wave, a sickening lurch, a critical system overwhelmed, pitching Brooke overboard into the icy, engulfing embrace of the deep. Fate, however, had positioned Ridge nearby, perhaps drawn by an unconscious pull or a final, desperate need to see her. Witnessing the horrifying splash, Ridge Forrester acted with the primal instinct of a man whose soul recognized its other half was in peril. Without a heartbeat of hesitation, he plunged into the treacherous waters, cutting through the waves with singular, desperate purpose. His heroic rescue was a physical battle against the ocean's might, but the true seismic shift occurred in the dripping aftermath on solid ground. Cradling a shivering, vulnerable Brooke, the years of conflict, the betrayals, the revolving door of other partners, momentarily dissolved in the raw, life-affirming intensity of the moment. Brooke, who had moments before declared herself utterly done with Ridge and his games, felt the icy fortress around her heart crack and melt under the undeniable warmth of his presence, the sheer, undeniable proof of his unwavering commitment written in his fear-filled eyes and protective hold. The spark that had once ignited an epic decades-long love story, dampened by resentment and circumstance, roared back to life, not as a flicker, but as a consuming flame, compelling her to soften, to acknowledge the undeniable truth resonating within her. Her heart, battered and bewildered, was inexorably pulling her back towards Ridge. For Ridge, the near loss was a brutal, clarifying lightning strike. As he held Brooke, the adrenaline-fueled fear transmuted into a soul-deep certainty. Taylor Hayes, for all her grace, loyalty, and the comfort she represented, could never occupy the sacred, tumultuous space Brooke held. Taylor was a haven, but Brooke was his destiny, his elemental counterpart, the love that defined his very being. Denying it any longer was a futile act of self-betrayal. This profound epiphany, born from salt water and near tragedy, spelled immediate, devastating consequences for others. Taylor Hayes, poised on the brink of finally securing her happily ever after with Ridge, would soon face the soul-crushing realization that her engagement ring was merely a placeholder for Brooke's inevitable return, another heartbreak in the long saga of being perpetually second best in Ridge's deepest affections. Nick Marone, watching the reunion unfold from the periphery, salt water mingling with tears of bitter realization, saw his dream of an Italian renaissance with Brooke evaporate before his eyes. The boat he'd rushed to repair became the symbol of his own shattered hopes, leaving him heartbroken and adrift, his impending exit from Los Angeles now shadowed by profound loss. Destiny, the relentless force the show had always championed for Bridge, had intervened with dramatic, watery finality, sweeping aside other contenders and reaffirming their tumultuous, inescapable bond. While the Pacific waves settled over Ridge and Brooke's reignited passion, a different kind of treacherous current flowed through the streets of Los Angeles, swirling around the enigmatic and dangerous Sheila Sharp. Her predatory instincts, honed by years of manipulation and survival, had fixated on Lee Finnegan, sensing a secret radiating from the normally composed doctor with unusual intensity. The mystery surrounding Luna Nozawa's improbable survival, a story guarded with almost paranoid vigilance, prickled Sheila's insatiable curiosity. Could Lee be hiding the true circumstances? Was there more to Luna's miraculous recovery than medical skill? Driven by a potent cocktail of suspicion, malice, and the thrill of the hunt, Sheila decided passive observation wasn't enough. She would take matters into her own hands, transforming from passive observer to active detective. Stalking Lee's movements, lurking in hospital corridors, perhaps attempting to intercept confidential files or eavesdrop on guarded conversations, Sheila embarked on a perilous investigation. Her goal wasn't justice, but leverage, chaos, or simply the satisfaction of unraveling a truth that could shatter lives, particularly those connected to her son, Finn, and his wife, Steffi, Luna's cousin. The secret of Luna's survival, a fragile truth carefully preserved, now teetered precariously on the brink of exposure thanks to Sheila's invasive, unpredictable probing. Simultaneously, her son, John Finn Finnegan, was diligently pursuing his own detective work on a vastly different, yet equally explosive, case. The puzzle pieces of Grace Buckingham's elaborate maternity scam were finally falling into place under Finn's persistent scrutiny. His medical expertise and growing collection of evidence, conflicting timelines, forged documents, inconsistencies in Grace's story, were leading him inexorably towards the shattering conclusion that Liam Spencer and his father, the formidable Bill Spencer, had been ruthlessly duped. The revelation that the baby Liam believed was his with hope wasn't biologically theirs at all, but the product of Grace's deception, loomed on the horizon, promising a detonation of fury, betrayal, and shattered paternal bonds that would rock the Spencer family to its core. Finn's pursuit of this truth, though noble in intent, was hurtling towards a collision with immense emotional fallout. Finally, the return of Daphne Rose to Los Angeles promised to stir fresh conflict within the walls of Forrester Creations. Hope Logan, navigating her own complex emotional landscape after Thomas's departure and her mother's dramatic reunion with Ridge, was unlikely to welcome Daphne's presence, particularly given the model's history with Carter Walton and her undeniable allure. Carter, ever the dignified mediator yet undeniably drawn to Daphne's vibrancy, would inevitably find himself trapped in the crossfire between Hope's professional authority and potential personal resentment, and Daphne's ambition and undeniable connection to him. This brewing clash added another layer of tension to the already volatile atmosphere, ensuring that both love and ambition remained perpetually on a knife's edge in the world of high fashion and higher drama. Thus, as Ridge and Brooke emerged dripping and destined from the ocean, and Sheila slunk through the shadows hunting secrets, the stage was set for a cascade of revelations, heartbreaks, and confrontations, proving that in Los Angeles, salvation and peril were often just two sides of the same, endlessly turning coin.